got a bit mixed up. Anyway, he saw the light, and now this is his 12th year in Alt Bay. He's very valued as a good friend and a loyal member of West Ross Burns Club. Bryan Islip. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by saying that this is unscripted, by the way. My grandfather was the General of the Salvation Army. At the age of 8, when he came back from a tour of America, 1939, 40, I'd heard that he'd spoken to the largest live audience in the world at that time, 60,000 people in the Hollywood Bowl. And I said to my grandfather, how can you talk to all those people? Doesn't it frighten you? Words to that effect for an 8-year-old. He said to me something I've always remembered. He said, you don't speak to 60,000 people, Bryan. You look at somebody and you speak to them, everybody else overhears you. Oh. So I'm looking at Alan right now. And I'm hoping you're all overhearing me. On the 9th of April, 1793, this is where I get my notes out, Robert Burns wrote a letter. In it was the sentence, woman is the blood royal of life. Let them all be sacred. Gentlemen, I shall begin by saying that I agree with him. All my life I have put the female of our species on a pedestal. Too bad they've all fallen off. Except she. Oh,
keep doing as well as that.
I have to attribute this fixation, pedestal fixation, to having grown up through World War II in my pre-teen years with a family, with my father away with War Department business, my mother and 3 young sisters. They were useless at bloody conkers, and they couldn't play with my toy soldiers, or didn't want to. So I couldn't understand that at all, because the older girls in my locality always seemed to want to play with soldiers. Also the Yankee variety. By contrast, aged from 11 to 15, I was consigned, or some might say confined, to a boys-only boarding school. Not, in case you're wondering, a borstal, called a public school in those days. Consequently, my first free adolescent contact with the female of our species made a very major impression on me. Imagine this, it's January the 1st, 1949. A large Boots the Chemist store in central Cambridge. In walks a youth of barely 15, Boots' brand new apprentice pharmacist. There are many females of his old age, of his own age, and upwards, busily dusting off their counters, and they all stopped and they all looked at me. Painful. Barely able to speak, I asked the nearest girl to the manager's office. Her name was Heather Wolfe. I remember her name to this day because she was to become my first sort of girlfriend. We used to spend our lunch breaks across the road in the record shop. In those days, such places had soundproof booths where you could listen to the record that you might want to buy. I remember our favourite record, Pearl Johnson and Teddy Pearl Carr and Teddy Johnson. Now, some of you said yes, some of the older generation.
Thank you.
Singing There's a Small Hotel, and it went on with a wishing well, I wish that we were there together. Boy, did I ever wish. No chance, of course, for in those days one would expect little more than the occasional brush, in spite of the fact that Heather was very well gifted in the female department, or even much of the couple. Later on, as a newly recruited RAF National Serviceman, I hitchhiked back from South Wales to Cambridge to see my Heather, only to find out that she was going out, quote unquote, with a US Air Force sergeant. And this was my first hard lesson in the fickleness of my pedestalised female.
What was that one?
Pedestal.
Well, I made these words up. Now it is politically correct these days to speak of the equality of the sexes as if it is an unarguable truth. But I have learned that there are many differences or inequalities in understanding and logic between human males and females. If I may illustrate this, not long ago one of my, and this is true, not a joke, one of my sons told me that following an extensive session in a local pub, he had been well and truly put in a doghouse by his wife. Please understand, he pleaded, it was because I worked so hard for you and the family, and under such pressure, whilst you were working 3 days, going to the gym and having her hair done all the time. But for some reason she still hadn't understood. My fatherly advice was never to use fact or logic in such an exchange. Just say how sorry you are and look as woebegone as you can. It is the only way to avoid that female punishment of the last resort, the much dreaded stony silence. Logic. I told my son to forget it, and about how I remembered a business logistics expert telling us how he watched his wife at breakfast time making lots of trips between the refrigerator, table and cabinets, often carrying a single thing at a time. It seems that one morning he told her, why don't you try carrying several things at once? At that point I put up my hand and asked him if it had saved time. He nodded. Yeah, actually, yes. It used to take her 20 minutes and now I do it in 7. There's another thing about the ladies that puzzles me. What about the legendary female multitasking? If that's true, I've wondered, why can't women have a headache and make love at the same time? Or, as a friend of mine added, what's their head got to do with it? Sorry about this. There's another thing. Ladies, we do love you. Obviously we do. You're here in great numbers. We're all beautiful. And we're not all by ourselves, we males in some pub. A random glance through the Burns archives yields a multitude of proofs as to how much we love you ladies. And these are amongst them. Isabella of Jedburgh was one of Rabbie's less celebrated loves. A young lady already well engaged to another when she met the poet during his tour of the borders in 1787. A meeting, by the way, that earned her considerable local approbation. After his visit, he went merrily on his way, later writing her a letter, including this remarkable tribute. Sweet Isabella Lindsay, may peace dwell in thy bosom, uninterrupted except by the tumultuous throbbings of rapturous love. That love-kindling eye must beam on another, not me. That graceful form must bless another's arms, not mine. And so he goes on his way rejoicing. Then there was Margaret Peggy Thompson, who Burns first met in Kirkoswald when at school age. He met her again much later, shortly before his eventual aborted departure to the West Indies, as mentioned by Tony. In the Glenriddle manuscript there is a note in Burns's hand. Poor Peggy, her husband is an old acquaintance and a most worthy fellow. When I was taking leave, intending to go to the West Indies, neither she nor I could speak a syllable. Her husband escorted me 3 miles on my road, and we both parted with tears. Such wonderful understanding, although if one is in any way cynical about the husband's tears, perhaps they were of joy now that our bard had been safely on his way. Of course, our Abbey was not always successful with the ladies. He wrote a song about a group of local girls he called the Tarbolton Lassies. One of them, with whom he obviously tried his luck, was named Bessie. It seems he may have missed his mark with her, for the verse goes, "There's few say bonny, none say good, in all King George's dominion. If you should doubt the truth of this, it's Bessie's own opinion." So Bessie, here's to you. But ladies, I really cannot propose this toast without mentioning that most important of human functions, procreation. It is, after all, the name of the game of life, but its joys and its agonies. A female patient asks her doctor, "Should I have a baby after 35? "No," replies doctor, 35 children is enough." A more mature lady had an appointment at the surgery with one of the new doctors, burst out of his office, crying, running down the corridor. An older doctor stopped her and asked what the problem was. He listened, then marched into the new doctor's office. "What's the matter with you?" he demanded. "Mrs. Terry is 63 years old, she has 4 children and 7 grandchildren, and you told her she was pregnant?" The new doctor looked up. Cured her hiccups though, didn't I? Talking about doctors, ladies, have you heard of the new medication? It's called Pepto-Bimbo. It's a liquid silicone for single women. Apparently, 2 full cups swallowed before an evening out increases breast size, decreases intelligence, and improves male relationships. Sticking with medical matters, her husband has been in hospital slipping in and out of a coma for weeks. His wife has stayed by his bedside all alone. And suddenly he comes to, motions her to come near, and whispers, his eyes full of tears, "My love, you've been with me through all this time. When I got fined, you were there. When my business failed, you never ever complained. When I got shot, you were by my side, and even when we lost the house, you stayed right here. You know what?" "What, dear?" she asked gently. "I think you're bad luck," he behind the joking, I never tell you, ladies, that love can and does conquer all. each girl, the stuff of life. Thousands of songs and poems endorse it, and when people tell me they have no time for poetry, I have to smile. I ask them, but you do like pop music? Yes? Well, it's only poetry sector music. Anyway, here are very brief extracts from just 2 poems. Each is, I think, a rather lovely form of proposal. Come live with me and be my love, and we shall all the pleasures prove, that hills and valleys, dales and field, and all the craggy mountains yield. There will we sit upon the rocks, and see the shepherds feed their flocks, by shallow rivers to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals. There I will make thee beds of roses, and 1,000 fragrant posies, and if these pleasures may thee move, come live with me and be my love. Those verses were from Christopher Marlowe's The Passionate Shepherd, written 400 years ago. And this is from Robert Burns' Bonnie Jean, written 2 centuries later. There was a lass and she was fair, at kirk or market to be seen, when all our fairest maids were there. The fairest maid was Bonnie Jean. Burns goes on to describe in some detail the courtship. And then, O Jeanie dear, I love thee dear. O canst thou think to fancy me, or wilt thou leave thy mammy's cot and learn to tend the fields with me? At barn or byre thou shalt not drudge, nor or nothing else to trouble thee, that stray amongst the heather bells and tent the waving corn with me. The promise of that age-old utopia, ideal. And why not? We all know that real life can never be that way, but we can all wish and we can all pretend. In closing, I think that Rami would have approved of the following lines from Franz Lehar's operetta Paganini. Sexist, yes it may be, and possibly illegal, but as somebody called Brett Butler once remarked, you're all thinking, who was Brett Butler? Gone with the wind. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Besides, my good friend, the Reverend Pam Shinkins, will remind me that we are all, as the one upstairs made us. Girls were made to love and kiss, and who am I to interfere with this? Is it well? Who can tell? I'm a man, and I'll kiss them when I can. When I can, that is, when they're not out of reach up there on a pedestal. Gentlemen, please be upstanding. To the Lassies.
The Lassies.
Changes that have come over me in these last few days. I've been afraid that I might drift away. I've been telling old stories, singing songs that make me think about where I come from. That's the reason why I seem so far away today. Let me tell you that I love you, that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me. Now I'm going home. If I should become a stranger, it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. I have moved and I've kept on moving, proved the points that I needed proving, lost the friends that I needed losing, found others on the way. I have kissed the fellas and left them sighing, stolen dreams, sure there's no denying. I've traveled hard, sometimes with conscience flying, somewhere with the wind. Ah, but let me tell you that I love you, that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me. Now I'm going home. If I should become a stranger, it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. Ah, but let me tell you that I love you, that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me. Now I'm going home. If I should become a stranger, it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. I'm sitting here before the fire, the empty room, a forest choir. The flames have cooled, don't get any higher. They've withered now, they're gone. And I'm steady thinking my way is clear, and I know what I will do tomorrow. When the hands have shaken, the kisses float, I will disappear. Let me tell you that I love you, that I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me. Now I'm going home. If I should become a stranger, it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. And if I should become a stranger, no, it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever